Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. Today I'm going to show you how to flush out your cooling system. This is going to be on my 4th gen 4Runner. As a few of you might notice, this is the reason why I'm doing this. Back when I replaced my radiator, thermostat, and I just flushed the cooling system then, I put in the wrong Toyota coolant. I put in the long life, not the super long life. There's two different additives that they add to it. That's a little bit different between the two coolants. So far I haven't had any issues, but since it hasn't been that long, I'm going to go ahead and flush it. And since I have to do that, I'm going to show you guys how to properly do that. So let's get right into it and I'll show you what you need. So what you guys are going to need, you're going to need a vehicle to flush this stuff out. You are going to need some gloves, a spill-proof funnel. That way we can burp all the air out of the system. You're going to need a 3/8 ratchet set, or actually any kind of ratchet set, some kind of extension. You're going to need a 5/16 hose so we can get to the drain ports on the block. You're going to need your specified coolant. This is the super long life. It's by Valvoline, but anyway, super long life will work as long as the ingredients match. You're going to need a couple buckets, some kind of spill pan. You will need 2 gallons of distilled water. Remember, distilled water. You don't want to use any tap water because that will eliminate having any kind of contamination that goes inside of your block and your whole cooling system. This has 0 minerals, so this will alleviate any rust. And I almost forgot, you will need some type of pliers. And that's about it. So let's get into it and let's start draining some things. All right, first things first, let's slide this pan underneath the vehicle. Let's get under here. We're going to locate our radiator petcock. So the petcock is this little spout right here. This is where you can drain out all of your coolant. You will need to grab your hose. In my case, we're going to feed it up through here, and we're going to attach it to that little spout. Once attached, this is where your pliers will come in handy. I don't think I tighten it too hard, so I think I can do this by hand. So you're just going to turn it a little bit. Do not take it all the way out. See how it's starting to leak right there? That's too far. So push it back in a little bit, and then now we should see the coolant getting drained. One way to make this go faster, make sure your vehicle is cold. We're going to take off our radiator cap. This will allow air to go in, push down, and drain all the coolant faster. All right, you see how it's already draining faster? That's awesome. So in the meantime, we are going to access our passenger side drain on our block. So we're going to need our smaller bucket. This is where a second hose comes in handy. All right, so let me try to get a good shot for you. You see that little spout right there? That's what we're going to put our hose on, and that's where our drain block is on the passenger side. All right, I have it all on. It is actually a 10 millimeter, and that's how I have my hose routed right down to my bucket. Make sure you spray some PP Blaster on these bolts just to alleviate your bolts breaking. This is gonna be hard to get a good shot, but all you need to do is loosen it a little bit. I'll put this down and I'm going to start loosening that bolt. There we go. You don't have to take it all the way out. That is actually plenty. We're gonna let that drain. All right, and keep an eye on this. Make sure it does not overflow. Next, you're going to locate your coolant reservoir. Mine happens to be attached to the radiator with 3 10 millimeter bolts. One here, and one right up over here. We're going to unbolt that. We're going to take off the tank, and then we're going to drain the rest of the coolant that's inside of here. All right, now we can take off our cap on here. Just set it over on the side, and then this should just pull up, and now we can drain it. And then you can pour just a little bit of your distilled water in here. splash it around, and just drain out the excess water. There we go. All right, and I believe our radiator is drained. So we can tighten up that petcock, and then we can attach our overflow tank again. Nice and tight. Remove your hose. This side, the bucket is pretty much almost full. A gallon came out of here. I believe a gallon came out of the radiator as well. We will measure that here shortly. But I'm going to plug this with my thumb, take this, and just pour it into my bigger bucket. All right, let that continue draining. Now I have the coolant in here, and that's still draining. All right, guys, so the driver's side one is the hardest one to get to. I'm probably not going to be able to get to it. It's literally right underneath my exhaust manifold to the left of the starter, and we cannot see it from up here. What I'm going to do, I'm probably going to skip it for now. All right, so I just tightened up this drain on the passenger side. I poured the coolant into here. It was almost a gallon. So we have just under 2 gallons. So that means there's still a little bit inside of the system. So what we're going to do, we're going to put our spill-proof funnel on. We're going to fill the whole system up with distilled water, start it, let it cycle through a few times, and then we're going to drain everything again. All right, so you're going to find the piece that fits your radiator cap. Mine happens to be the blue one in here, and there's a few different types. So you're just going to have to figure out which one fits your said radiator. And then we're going to put our funnel on top. We're going to take out this plug, and then we're going to start filling this with distilled water. And make sure everything is nice and tight and closed. Nope, splashing. And gallon number 2. All right, so that's gallon number 2. We're going to go ahead and start the car and let it warm up. And while you're doing this, make sure that your fan is on high and you put your temp all the way up to the highest point, and then you just have it on recirculating. This will allow the heater core to open up and to flush all of that fluid out. And in no time, as soon as that thermostat opens up, that water will be sucked down. All right, while we're waiting for this to warm up, get up to your operating temperature. While you're in here, you can still peek underneath the hood. You can see it better in person, but you can watch your water line. And we just want to stay in here just in case if like anything like starts to overheat or anything like that. But we're going to keep an eye on it and make sure that whenever the thermostat opens up, the water will be sucked down. So you can lightly apply some revs. Since this is a cold start, you don't want to go too crazy. This is going to be like kind of like you're driving around. Ideally, you want to be up around 2,000 RPMs, but be gentle with it since the oil is still cold. So we're going to do this for a little bit, and then I will update you whenever that thermostat opens up. All right, we are now at operating temp, and you can see the fluid is starting to turn a little bit pink on my side. That means there's still a little bit of that coolant left in there, which is good. It's circulating around. And now the thermostat should be opening pretty soon. The level rose a little bit. See how there's some bubbles going in there? I'll get out so we can actually see it. Oh, what are you doing, bucket? All right, you see how there's some bubbles coming out? That means the thermostat is slowly opening up. It is letting out some of that, some of the air that's trapped in the whole system. So you're gonna keep doing this until you don't see any bubbles. All right, guys, I let the thermostat open up a few times. So now we're going to shut off the car. Now this is like pretty pink. So what you would normally do, you would normally flush this about 2, maybe 3 times until it gets like a little more on the clear water side. So next, you're just going to drain it, follow the steps to like keep doing it, and then we're going to fill it with our coolant. So I'm going to go ahead and drain it. do the same procedure, and then I'll see you whenever I'm starting to fill this thing back up. And make sure while you're draining this for the second or third or fourth time that you're very careful, because this water is hot. So do not burn yourself, okay?
One eternity later.
All right, guys, now that we have the cooling system drained a few times, now we can go ahead and add our coolant. In my case, the super long life is already pre-diluted, so I don't need to add any water to it. I can just add it straight in. If you guys are adding a concentrated version of your coolant, it will say on the bottle, do a 50-50 mixture. So get a gallon of diluted water and add half of that to it. It's gonna be 50% antifreeze, 50% water, and then just add it in. Or you can also check your owner's manual to see what they recommend. They might do a 70-30. Just double check on your side. So now we're going to add the coolant to the system. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start the car, turn your fans on high, turn your heat on high, have it recirculate, get all the bubbles out of your cooling system, and then you guys will be done. All right, and one thing that will actually help is if you either park on an incline, put your vehicle up on some ramps, or jack up the front end, this will allow all of the air to slowly make its way up to the front of the vehicle, which will make the burping process a lot easier. So just keep that in mind while you do this. All right, so now that I just burped the whole entire system, it actually helped when I had it up on my hill. That got a lot of the fluid out, or air out. So now, last thing to do with this funnel, which is pretty cool, you can plug it up like that, open up your reservoir, and then take this out, transfer it right over there. Now, before we put the fluid or the antifreeze in there, I'm going to take this off. Now, it might make a little bit of a mess, which it did. That's okay. Put your radiator cap back on. Geez, I can't speak. Radiator. And then there we go. Now we can just take this out. Put the rest of the coolant in there. And then we're gonna fill it up to about this line right here. That's my full line. That's right underneath it. That'll be fine. It's on the low side of it, which is okay. So just put your plunger back in, take it out. So just grab a rag, wipe everything off. Put this back in there. This is for your overflow. So if there is any extra air in there, it'll burp the rest of the way out. So the air will just come up through here. Since this is a high spot, the air naturally wants to come up here, and then it'll just purge its way out, which is nice. And it will suck up any extra coolant that you have in here to fill the air gaps. I have to pick up one more bottle of coolant, and then I can fill this up the rest of the way. But yeah, just make sure you're at least the max line or halfway. And that's about it. All right, guys, you have successfully flushed and burped your own cooling system. Way to go. It's not that hard. It's mostly time consuming. This took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to do everything, which is about normal. The longest part is literally just waiting for everything to drain and then letting your car just heat up in the process. So yeah, that's about it. Make sure you guys do it a few times to get all that old coolant out. If you haven't done it in a while, you might see some deposits in there. Maybe a little bit of rust. So there's some additives that you can add in there as well to break down all the rust, which all you would need to do is drain the whole system, fill it up with distilled water, and then add like this cleaner to it, and then drive around for, I don't know, about a day or so, I think. Maybe it was like 2 hours. But yeah, and then you flush out the whole system like I showed you how to. And one last thing to note, you need to do something with your old coolant. You cannot just dump this down your drain. If you look up in your area where to take old fluids and stuff like that, some auto parts stores or some auto shops might take them. You just have to call them. But I called a waste management place near me, and they take old coolant. So I'll be dropping that off there just to make sure that it gets recycled properly and disposed of. And one last thing to note, even though you burp the whole system, when you're driving around every other day or so, go ahead and check on your reservoir level. Make sure that is filled, because over time, if you do have some trapped air, which is going to happen, you just want to make sure that your reservoir is full and not just empty, because that's bad. Anyway, so that's all you need to do. If you guys found this video super helpful, go ahead, leave a like, subscribe to see more videos like these, and I'll catch you on the next ride.